Hey everyone, I'm Rudy Oliva and you're watching Smoking the Barbecue. For today's cook, we're not going to be doing any grilling or barbecue, but instead I'm going to be cooking this whole picanha on my cast iron skillet. This video was requested by my buddy Brian, so Brian, this one's for you. Now the first thing that we got to do before we start cooking it is we got to get the picanha ready. I'm going to start by trimming some of the fat on the bottom, and then I'm also going to trim the fat cap down to about 1/8 of an inch, similar to what I would do with brisket. So let's go ahead and get started and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so I always start with the bottom and I just want to get rid of the silver skin and this chunk of fat right here. Now the easiest way that I find to do it is to slide your knife underneath and just trim that right off. Now the next part, I want to cut straight down on this fat so that when I trim the fat cap I can see how thick it is. So I'm just going to go straight down here. Alright, for the bottom, that's good enough for me. Now let's start on the fat cap. Okay guys, so this is my end result now. I didn't want that, but it's not a big deal. It happens. Sometimes I just take off a little bit too much fat. To be completely honest, sometimes when I get lazy and I don't feel like going through this whole trimming process, if I'm doing it on the cast iron, I'll just take the whole fat cap off completely and just cook it that way, and it makes no difference in the tenderness whatsoever. It's really a preference thing. But again, if you take the whole thing off, it doesn't matter. The tenderness is still gonna be there. All right, so now the next step is to cut it into steaks. Now in order to cut it into steaks, we are going to cut it with the grain so that once we serve it, we cut the slices against the grain. Okay, so as you can see, the grain is running across up and down here. So what I do is I use 2 fingers as my guide as to how thick I want to make the steaks. So I'll score it right here, and then I'll move over, score it again. Be careful not to cut yourself. And this one, I'll go ahead and leave like that. So we'll get 3 steaks out of this. Okay, so before I start seasoning the steaks, I'm gonna go ahead and get the skillet nice and hot for when we put them on there. So I'm just gonna put some olive oil in here. It doesn't have to be a whole lot, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to put it on high heat so we get a good sear. Alright, so I'm going to give this a few minutes to get really hot, and I want it to get to the point where there's some smoke coming off the bottom of the pan. In the meantime, let's go ahead and season those steaks. I'll start off with some coarse salt, get a nice coat on there. Followed by some black pepper and garlic powder. And we want to make sure that we repeat this process on all the sides. All right, and that tells me we are ready to go. Okay guys, so what I do now is I give it about 4 minutes per side, and then after that I do about another extra 2 minutes with the fat cap down so that that fat cooks really nice. And also about halfway through, I'm probably going to add some butter in there. So this should only take about, the full cook should only take about 10 minutes. Okay, so it's almost halfway through. I'm going to go ahead and throw some butter in. All right, now my final step is to put the fat cap down and let that cook. Okay guys, so we're all done. I let them rest for about 5 minutes. Now let's go ahead and cut them open and see how they look. That is so freaking good. So good.
Best chef ever.
The best, my love. The best. You are the best making this.
Alright guys, so that's it. As you can see, picanha is good pretty much any way that you make it. It's just a really good cut of beef, and it's my go-to. Also, always make sure that you're using a sharp knife, because if not, it could be, believe it or not, a dull knife is actually dangerous. Got my finger. Luckily it's not too bad, but anyway, that's it for this video, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.